people today that, quote, people think have a perfect life, and I know that nothing is as it seems. Nothing is. And I know people are walking around with tremendous pain, tremendous heartbreak, tremendous loss.
Imagine dedicating a quarter century to building a life, only to discover that the foundation was cracked by a secret hidden for 14 years. What does it take to face such a personal catastrophe and still find the strength to rebuild? Maria Shriver's story is not just about betrayal, but about endurance, faith, and the power to redefine oneself against unimaginable odds. At 70, she revealed the truth behind the rupture of a marriage that once seemed unbreakable. One woman's presence inside the very home Maria thought was sacred. This isn't merely a tale of scandal. The broken home rule. Maria Shriver had one unbreakable rule in her marriage: the sanctity of their home. The Brentwood mansion where she and Arnold Schwarzenegger raised their 4 children was her sacred space, untouchable by the chaos of Hollywood, politics, or Arnold's ambitious world. No matter what challenges or scandals swirled outside, Maria believed their home was a place of trust and safety. For 25 years, she held on to the belief that Arnold respected this boundary. This rule was the line she trusted Arnold would never cross. As public figures, their lives were under constant scrutiny, but Maria viewed their household as a shielded sanctuary for family and love. However, beneath the surface, something was quietly unraveling. Unknown to Maria, a secret had been lurking within the walls of that home, one that would shatter everything she thought she knew about their marriage. The breach of this sacred boundary wasn't a sudden event. It was a betrayal that quietly grew in the shadows for more than a decade. Maria's trust was tested not through distant distractions or brief indiscretions, but through a deep, hidden truth that involved someone living right under their roof. This was more than infidelity. It was a rupture in what Maria had believed was untouchable. For years, Maria had been defending Arnold through scandals, accusations, and whispers. Yet, the biggest betrayal was not the one seen by the public. It was a secret kept in their own home. This secret would come to define the end of their marriage and the beginning of a painful, public unraveling. But why did Maria hold on for so long? And what finally made her see the truth? The answer lies in the place she thought was safest. Despite the growing shadows, Maria clung to hope and faith that the home rule was intact. This belief sustained her during public scandals and personal challenges. Still, there was an undercurrent she couldn't ignore. Small signs and quiet doubts that something was very wrong behind the closed doors. Those doubts would eventually force her to confront the secret no one wanted to reveal. What made this betrayal all the more devastating was its quiet, insidious nature. It wasn't a public affair or headline-grabbing scandal at first. It was a hidden life happening beneath her very eyes. Maria's housekeeper, who was trusted by the whole family, became the keeper of a secret that would change everything. The inevitable collision of truth and silence would come years later, but it was brewing in the heart of the home. Arnold Schwarzenegger's career and personal life had always been complicated, but the line Maria drew around their home was supposed to be his one limit. The belief that this line would hold kept Maria anchored, even when the world was falling apart outside. She was unaware that for more than a decade, that line had been crossed repeatedly, quietly eroding the foundation of their family. The story of how this unlikely marriage began reveals the stark contrasts and deep complexities that defined their life together. A royal match against odds. Maria Shriver's story starts in a world far removed from Hollywood's bright lights. She was born into America's most famous political family. Her mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, was sister to President John F. Kennedy, and her uncles were the legendary visionaries Bobby and Ted Kennedy. Maria was raised with the weight of Camelot on her shoulders, groomed for a life devoted to public service and carrying forward a family legacy. Expectations were high, and her path seemed mapped out in advance. Against that backdrop, the man she fell in love with was entirely unexpected. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the reigning Mr. Olympia, a 30-year-old Austrian bodybuilder with a thick accent, muscles that seemed larger than life, and a Hollywood dream that many doubted. Hollywood executives told him he would never be a leading man because of his accent, and foreignness. To the Kennedy circle, he was an outsider, an unpolished and unlikely match for a Kennedy princess. Maria's family was skeptical. Her mother hesitated, and her influential uncle Ted Kennedy even joked about it. The whispers at Hyannisport were far from subtle. How could a weightlifter with no political pedigree fit into the Kennedy clan? Yet, to Maria, Arnold was more than the sum of appearances. She saw ambition, relentlessness, and an irrepressible spirit. She saw a man who built himself from nothing, fearless and driven in ways that mirrored her own character. Their courtship lasted nearly a decade, full of challenges and contrasts. Arnold was breaking into Hollywood, while Maria was carving out her own identity as a journalist and advocate. She was determined to succeed on her own terms, not just as Arnold's wife or a Kennedy heir. Meanwhile, Arnold was turning setbacks into triumphs, proving his doubters wrong again and again. Their relationship was far from conventional. It was a collision of worlds that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. On April 26, 1986, Maria walked down the aisle at the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, in this grand ceremony that kind of felt like a royal wedding. Bruce Springsteen, Andy Warhol, Oprah Winfrey, and Barbara Walters were there among the guests. The union symbolized more than just two people joining. It also felt like the world's been crossed, Hollywood on one side and Camelot on the other. For a moment, it really seemed like a fairy tale made real. Maria bet everything on Arnold, taking on the messy uncertainties and the small sacrifices that come when you love a man whose drive matches your own flame. For years after they married, it looked like she'd won. They had 4 children, a big, sprawling family life, full of affection and the usual daily noise. Her career kept going too. She became a respected journalist, winning major awards while still managing motherhood. Arnold became a global action star, and later, he moved into politics, eventually becoming governor of California. But underneath all that success, differences and pressure began to show up. Arnold's non-stop push for fame and power created demands that competed with every other part of life. And Maria kept juggling both the expectations from her family story and her own ambitions. That mix set the stage for tensions that only got worse, once their lives became even more public than before. Love was still there, but so were secrets that were sort of simmering right under everything. The home that once felt like a fortress would become the stage for the hardest truths yet to come. Building the American Dream. The years following their wedding marked a period of outward success and family growth for Maria and Arnold. Between 1989 and 1997, they welcomed 4 children: Catherine, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher. As their family grew, Maria balanced the demands of motherhood with a flourishing career in journalism. She earned accolades like the Peabody Award and an Emmy, making it clear she was more than just Arnold's wife. She was a force in her own right. Arnold, on the other hand, had become the embodiment of the American dream. His rise from an Austrian immigrant to a Hollywood superstar was nearly unprecedented. Movies like The Terminator, Total Recall, and True Lies made him a global icon. Far from being limited by his accent, it became his trademark, helping him stand out on magazine covers and movie billboards worldwide. He was earning $20 million a film and carving out his empire. Together, their family life symbolized success on multiple fronts. Maria's achievements in journalism and advocacy paralleled Arnold's entertainment career and later political aspirations. They were seen as a power couple, combining brains, ambition, and Hollywood glamour. Their Brentwood mansion represented the pinnacle of this American dream, a place where their children could grow up safe and loved amidst it all. But beneath this polished exterior, pressures came from both public life and private demands. The sheer intensity of Arnold's career, combined with the spotlight on the family, created stress and opportunities for cracks to form. Maria juggled the roles of mother, journalist, and political spouse, often carrying the weight of holding their world together. The line between public image and personal reality was tightly guarded but increasingly fragile. In 1997, the pressures hit this unexpected kind of brutal turning point. While Maria was pregnant with their youngest child, Christopher, another woman in their household, Mildred Baena, the housekeeper, was also pregnant. Both of them gave birth within days of each other, under the same roof, all through those months. Almost nobody could have really pictured how big that moment was, or what secret it was quietly holding. For years, the two boys, Christopher and Joseph Baena, would grow up around the same rooms, same house, same routines, same birthdays, and they even swam in the same pool. They didn't know about the blood tie between them, not even a little. And at the same time, the whole carefully built American dream was quietly crumbling behind closed doors. Maria's trust and their home's supposed unity were about to be tested in ways no one really thought could happen. Even with the shiny look of success, secrecy and betrayal had already started taking root. Arnold's behavior seemed off, like there was something deeper going on, but Maria stayed protective. She kept shielding the family image, and honestly, she still had hope their future was still safe. She even defended Arnold out in public, while allegations, rumors, and whispers bounced around. Her steadiness came from love, and from this stubborn belief that their sanctuary was still whole and fine. Then days became years, and underneath the roof, that secret just kept festering, getting harder to ignore. The house Maria fought to keep standing was also, somehow, keeping a truth that would rip it apart. The face of the American dream finally slipped, revealing something messier, hidden pain and trust that was already splintering. That's how things lined up for the revelation that would end up shocking a nation. What followed would redefine not only their marriage, but the very identity Maria had built around her family and herself. Secrets under one roof. By early 1997, the Shriver-Schwarzenegger household carried a secret that would remain hidden for over a decade. While Maria was pregnant with their youngest son, Christopher, the family's longtime housekeeper, Mildred Baena, was also expecting a child. Both women were living under the same roof, sharing the same home, the same daily routines, the ultimate symbol of trust and familiarity. Yet Mildred was harboring a truth Maria could never have anticipated. The two boys were born just days apart, each unaware of their shared father and the complex family ties binding them beyond appearances. Mildred's pregnancy and the arrival of Joseph Baena were carefully masked within the family's daily rhythm. She kept the secret not only from the public, but also from Maria and much of the household staff. Mildred told others that her husband, Rogelio, was the father. Rogelio believed this for years and raised Joseph as his own son, changing diapers, attending Little League games, and attending birthday parties alongside Maria's children. This facade painted a picture of a blended family unaware of the true connections growing beneath the surface. Arnold Schwarzenegger was fully aware from the start, but kept the secret cloaked in silence. Over the years, he discreetly provided child support to Mildred, shielding Maria from the truth. His financial involvement was conducted quietly, separate from his life as a husband and public figure. This secret life unfolded alongside the family's public image of unity and success, creating an invisible but deeply damaging divide in their home. For 14 years, Joseph Baena lived in parallel to his half-siblings, sharing the same pool, the same holiday dinners, even attending the same birthday parties. The resemblance between Joseph and Arnold slowly became undeniable to those around them. As Joseph entered adolescence, the truth became harder to hide. The physical similarities sparked whispers and suspicions inside and outside the family circle, increasing the pressure on everyone involved. Maria, meanwhile, was oblivious to this hidden reality. She had faith in the home rule she cherished so deeply, trusting the people closest to her. Her focus remained on motherhood, career, and supporting Arnold through his political ambitions. The shock of this breach, once revealed, would be all the more devastating for its betrayal of that trust, shattering the illusion of safety within her own house.
Maria Shriver held each other and cried when the secret was discovered.
In her first interview, Mildred Baena has also revealed what her son thinks of his real father.
Before Joseph's story really came to light, other women sort of quietly intersected with Arnold's life. Bridget Nielsen, his co-star from 1985, said out loud she had an affair while Red Sonja was being filmed and Arnold was already engaged to Maria. Gigi Goyette claimed it was an on-and-off thing that started when she was 16, and it kept going through those early years of his marriage. Stuff like that made it feel less like a few isolated slip-ups and more like some stubborn habit. Things got even more heavy around Gruppagate in 2003, when new allegations surfaced, painting Arnold as a man who frequently crossed boundaries with women. 6 women publicly accused him of unwanted touching, and later, a 7th person came forward too. Even with how serious those claims were, Maria still defended her husband. Her loyalty during all that mess suggests this complicated emotional setup and those public/private contradictions that kept showing up inside their marriage. But the secret of Joseph and Mildred is what hurts the most, because it somehow lived both figuratively and literally right inside the walls of the home Maria tried to keep sacred. It wasn't just some affair passed around in hotel rooms, no. It was a child conceived, raised, and nurtured in the mansion Maria called her sanctuary. The breach was basically as close as it could get, within arm's reach, hidden in plain sight. And that was the moment everything became too much for any marriage to survive. Silent fractures often run the deepest, and the next step would confront Maria with a truth she could no longer deny. The long silence. For more than a decade, Maria lived a life unaware of the devastating secret growing in her midst. During those years, Joseph Baena and her own children coexisted, laughed, played, and grew up side by side, half-siblings unknowingly sharing the same bloodline. Yet the silence around Joseph's true paternity was absolute, maintained by a web of secrecy, lies, and quiet complicity. Maria's faith in the sanctity of her home was holding on by a thread. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself described only suspecting Joseph's connection as the boy grew older. Over time, physical signs, the jawline, the build, mannerisms, began to reveal what had been hidden. But despite these clues, he kept the truth from Maria, continuing to support Mildred privately. This prolonged deception compounded the betrayal and deepened the emotional scars once the truth inevitably surfaced. Maria's commitment to defending Arnold through years of scandals was rooted in a complex mix of love, faith, and perhaps denial. She had shielded him through public allegations of inappropriate behavior and affairs, vouching for his character even when the evidence mounted. Her decision to stand by him publicly was emblematic of her resilience, but also of the personal costs she bore in silence. The tension between their public image and private reality became unbearable as whispers and rumors began to circulate among family and friends. Some noticed the undeniable resemblance between Joseph and Arnold, fueling speculation that Maria found difficult to acknowledge. She pushed away the doubts, trusting the housekeeper and the life she had painstakingly built. But doubt is an insidious visitor, persistent and demanding attention. As Joseph entered his teenage years, those doubts turned to undeniable questions. The boy was no longer a child, hiding behind innocence. He was a young man whose features and presence could no longer be ignored. With Joe at 13, the truth became impossible to avoid. The fracture in the family could no longer be hidden behind polite silence and hopeful denial. When Maria finally confronted Mildred in early 2011, the truth came crashing down all at once. The housekeeper's confession unraveled the carefully maintained secrecy, exposing a web of lies that had been woven beneath the family's feet. Maria's world, already cracked by loss, the passing of her mother and father mere months before, shattered, leaving her to grapple with betrayal and heartbreak on multiple fronts. Maria's response was not impulsive fury, a slow, painful reckoning. She moved out of the Brentwood mansion and sought therapy, leaning on her Catholic faith and spiritual guidance to make sense of her new reality. This was not just about infidelity. It was a fundamental change in identity, relationships, and trust. She lost not only her husband, but the story she had told herself for a quarter century. The silence that had protected this secret for so many years turned into a long, drawn-out public ordeal. The press revelation would follow months later with explosive impact, turning a private heartbreak into one of the most humiliating celebrity scandals in recent history. Yet even amid the media storm, Maria's dignity remained intact. She refused to attack Arnold publicly or degrade their family further. From the shadows of betrayal, Maria would emerge to reclaim her identity outside the confines of a broken marriage. The shattering discovery. Early 2011 marked a turning point that no one in the Schwarzenegger-Shriver household could avoid. Maria Shriver, long confident in the sanctity of her home, was forced to confront a painful truth. Joseph Baena, the boy she had seen grow up alongside her own children, now a teenager, looked more and more like Arnold every day. The resemblance, jawline, build, even his smile, became impossible for anyone close to ignore. This growing reality gnawed at Maria for months, despite her efforts to dismiss the whispers and quiet suspicions that had circulated for years. She had counted on her trust in the housekeeper and the family's privacy. But as Joseph matured, the doubts intensified, and Maria could no longer turn a blind eye. The fragility of her world was exposed in a moment she had dreaded, but knew had to come: the confrontation. One afternoon, Maria pulled Mildred Baena aside and asked the question that had haunted her. Is Joseph Arnold's son? In that instant, years of silence crumbled. Mildred broke down, unable to maintain the facade any longer. The confession that followed was devastating, unraveling the fabric of family and trust that Maria had held close for decades. The revelation hit at the time when Maria was already struggling with profound personal losses. She had lost her mother in 2009 and her father just months earlier in January 2011. The collapse of her marriage layered grief upon grief, challenging everything she believed about family, identity, and love. This was not simply the end of a relationship, but the unraveling of the story she had told herself for 25 years. Almost immediately, Maria moved out of their Brentwood mansion. Seeking to process the heartbreak, she entered therapy and leaned heavily on her Catholic faith, searching for strength and meaning in the midst of chaos. She reached out to priests, rabbis, and counselors, anyone who could help her navigate the labyrinth of emotions and make sense of the life she thought she had. The choice to separate wasn't made lightly. Maria and Arnold's public announcement on May 9, 2011, basically framed their split with mutual respect, plus the usual requests for privacy. It sounded so calm, but underneath there was still a kind of storm that never really stopped. It felt like one of those standard Hollywood divorce things, a smooth script on the surface, but the reality under it was worse, and somehow more tangled. For Maria, it was the shattering of a dream, and then, right away, the start of a long road that was both exhausting and hard to walk. 8 days later, the Los Angeles Times put the secret out where everyone could see it. Suddenly, Mildred Baena and her son Joseph became international news overnight, and it wasn't gentle at all, more like an unforgiving spotlight pointed at one of America's most visible families. Arnold's admission that he had fathered a child with the housekeeper basically confirmed what Maria had already accepted reluctantly months before. The humiliation wasn't just there, it was out in the open, total and public. Now Maria was the woman who spent years defending her husband only to be betrayed in a very intimate way. The media frenzy, tabloid headlines, and even the jokes from late-night comedians, all of it magnified her hurt and turned something once private into a kind of global show. Still, she stayed there, quiet through most of it, and she seemed determined not to let the whole scandal decide who she was or break her. Despite the public storm, Maria's resilience would reveal itself quietly and powerfully in the chapters that followed. Public scandal and private strength. The fallout from the revelation was swift and brutal. Headlines screamed about Arnold's secret child with their housekeeper, and Maria Shriver found herself at the center of a scandal that shook Hollywood and political circles alike. She was no longer just Arnold's wife or a Kennedy. She was the woman betrayed in front of the world. Her family's most private pain splashed across every media outlet. Yet, Maria refused to crumble beneath the weight of humiliation. Through the glare of cameras and the sting of public judgment, she maintained a composed dignity. She did not retaliate with vengeful interviews or public attacks on Arnold. Instead, she embodied a quiet strength, showing the world that survival after devastation requires grace as much as courage. The couple's divorce process, beginning in July 2011, proved to be one of the longest and most complex celebrity splits in history. With no prenuptial agreement and assets estimated between $300 and $400 million, negotiations dragged on for a decade. Every settlement, every dispute, tethered Maria to a man who had broken her trust in the most intimate of ways. The media frenzy only intensified as the details of Arnold's past affairs including accusations from multiple women, surfaced. Through it all, Maria continued to defend her family's privacy fiercely and focused on protecting her children. While the public spectacle played out, her thoughts remained private, centered on healing and rebuilding. After the whole scandal, Maria kind of recalibrated her energy toward personal growth, advocacy, and this quieter sort of healing. In 2017, she rolled out the Sunday paper, which felt like a media brand built out of resilience and reflection, more or less. Her writing kept circling back to what she believed mattered: faith, the stubborn strength people find while dealing with adversity, and then that real, steady power of truth. And yes, even with her best-selling books mixed in there, her public rise looked less like a comeback and more like a woman remade, redefined by what she went through, not dulled or broken by it. Meanwhile, her advocacy for Alzheimer's disease took on a different weight, mainly because she had lost her father. Grief became a kind of fuel, and she used that energy to set up the women's Alzheimer's movement while also helping fund critical research. That activism turned into a beacon of hope and purpose, something that almost slipped past the scandal's shadow instead of living under it. The chapter on public scandal closed, but Maria's story was far from finished. Her journey toward healing and self-definition was only unfolding, rebuilding and redefining life. In the years following the public unraveling of her marriage, Maria Shriver embarked on a profound journey of self-reclamation. She shed the Schwarzenegger name professionally, choosing to be simply Maria once again, a woman defined by her own accomplishments rather than her former husband's legacy. This decision was more than symbolic. It represented her commitment to rebuild her identity beyond betrayal and scandal. Maria turned her personal grief into purpose, channeling her energies into advocacy and writing. She founded the Women's Alzheimer's Movement.
Hi, I'm Maria Shriver, a daughter of Alzheimer's, and I have a challenge for you. I want to enlist you in making medical history by joining researchers around the country to find a treatment, cure, or prevention for Alzheimer's.
Inspired by her father, Sergeant Shriver's battle with the disease, rather than allowing sorrow to consume her, she transformed it into a platform to fund research and raise awareness, creating meaningful change from loss. She also returned to journalism, reconnecting with audiences as a special anchor for the Today Show. Her work was no longer defined by her marriage or its collapse, but by the stories she told and the issues she championed. Maria's voice gained renewed strength and respect through her honest reflections on resilience, faith, and recovery. In 2017, amid a still-pending divorce, she launched the Sunday Paper, a weekly newsletter that blossomed into a media brand. It focused on resilience and the things that truly matter when life falls apart. Her forthcoming books continued this theme, achieving bestseller status and touching readers with their candid exploration of pain and growth. Despite how public some parts of her history were, Maria really protected her real day-to-day life. The rumored thing with Jeff Zucker, the former CNN president, seemed to happen away from the press spotlight, and not in that loud, performative way. She ended up building a quiet, romantic world on her own dignified terms, refusing to trot it out on red carpets or hunt for attention, which basically showed her commitment to autonomy, even when people wanted an easy story. The scars from betrayal, they didn't end up setting the shape of how Maria handled forgiveness. She said she forgave Arnold, but she also made it clear she never forgot the pain. Their connection shifted into something calmer, more like peaceful co-parenting, with their children's well-being taking center stage. Joseph Baena now has a relationship with his half-siblings too, and that feels like a sign that repair doesn't always mean deleting what happened before. Arnold's 2023 Netflix documentary included his own admission of wrongdoing. He called the affair his biggest failure, and in that same breath, he talked about regret for the hurt he caused Maria. Still, it was Maria's steady strength, her refusal to publicly vilify him, that really drew the whole picture. Grace, even while the situation stayed messy. Her story reads like standing tall, while the humiliation is still hanging around, and choosing truth over bitterness every time. From unbreakable home rules to public betrayals, Maria Shriver's journey through heartbreak shows unparalleled strength and transformation. Her resilience reminds us that adversity can be the soil for growth. If you found this story inspiring, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into lives that teach us how to endure and overcome.